Hey, Bengals fans, Burrow fans, or anybody else that's interested, I'm Lucas Moore. We've got Coach Sam Smathers on the podcast at 3 a.m. Coney. We haven't done a 3 a.m. Coney in a long time. I'm not going to go into the reasons why. Let's just enjoy it now.
Yes, sir.
Co-author of From Bulldog to Bengal, Coach Sam Smathers joining us. How does it feel to be an author, Sam? I mean,
Yeah.
this is crazy conversation. First time I met you, if I would have said, "Hey, you're going to be an author in what is it, 6 years time?" How crazy is that?
Um, yeah, I wouldn't have believed you. And like I said, um, my son Stanley, my youngest boy, Stanley,
Hmm.
and he tells me all the time he's into reading, and he's like, Dad, you're a published author, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, all right, yeah. I mean, he said, yeah, that's pretty amazing, and I said, oh, okay, and it's hitting me more and more. The more, we was just on with Jeff Hobson the other day, and talking with Jeff, and so, but like I said, he had Scott Burson, the author, the co-authors of the book. He actually wrote the book. I was part of the groundwork, and knew everything on the ground, and give him credit for a lot of the book. But he said something to me about doing this, and I said I haven't read 5 books in my life, but you know, but hey, let's go, let's do it. I'm ready, and here we are. It's coming out next month, and we got book signing dates at the Little Professor up in Athens, and a couple more that he's got laid out for us. So we're gonna be all over the place, I guess.
yeah, and there's a couple of questions that I have to ask about this book that I'm sure you've been asked a million times. The one question I got that's weird is I heard somebody, this is just online stuff. You have permission from the Burrow family to go ahead and write this book. I mean, that was when you initially talked to me about this book. You were like, I want to make sure that they're okay with it. So take me through that process of, okay, I want to do this book. I want to write this book. Now, how do I get permission from the Burrow family? Was that an easy process for you, Sam?
Well, I mean, we've known Robin and Jimmy Burrow for years. Like I said, since Joey was in third grade, she would volunteer for team mom, mother, concessions, work every Sunday, every game, do things like that. Of course, Jimmy was the defensive coordinator at OU, and he's like, heck yeah, he said, but I've known him forever, so I called them and I said, I want your blessing on this. And they said, well, ask Joe. So we texted Joe, and they, he was, yeah, go for it, coach. It was no big deal. And
That's
they just want to
awesome.
make sure that if I was in on it, they didn't know Scott, but if I was in on it, that they would, it would be done tasteful, which it is. And
Yeah.
Scott did a great job with that part of it. And
So have the Burrows read the book? Has Joe had a
yes,
chance to read the book?
I don't know if Joe has. I think he's, he might have read some of it, according to Jimmy. But the Robin and Jimmy have read it from pre-draft to draft to finish. So they've been in the loop and read it, and it reads real well. Jimmy told me that too. He said that it, and
Mm.
I agree. It does read. I mean, my when I started this, I want to do a book that anybody could pick up, from junior high kid to, a Bengal fan, 30-year Bengal fan, or LSU fan, LSU fan pick up and read it and really get the gist of, Joey Burrow growing up in a small town, and, and it reads real well. It reads just like that. And it did exactly hit all the marks that I wanted to hit. So
Yeah,
it
and I mean the last page is just, as a Bengals fan, as a Athens fan, I became when I was doing play by play there. It was fantastic. I mean, it's really well written. It's a smooth telling of the story. I like that it goes through time. And I really recommend it as a read because it's an encyclopedia of, especially the Athens time, because the LSU and the Bengals chronicles will be told again and again and again in documentaries. But to have this many original quotes from you guys, from Sam, from Troy, from Matt, from Coach Skinner, some of the
yeah,
quotes from Coach Skinner were
yeah,
fantastic. To have those quotes done now, when the memories are still fresh for everybody, it's going to be an invaluable resource in the future when people start to tell the story of Joe Burrow again, and I'm sure some fancy documentary 20 years in the future.
yeah, and that's what we wanted. We wanted it through the eyes of his hometown, and
Yeah.
And like I said, people say what they want. You know, Joe, he's the coach's son. You know, he just transient moved in and out when the coach leaves. People don't realize that Jimmy Burrow, Tim Albin, and Frank Solich were the longest tenured OC, DC, and head coach in NCAA at one time.
14
And
years, wasn't it?
yeah, I mean 14 or 15, yeah. And now Tim Albin's the head coach, and he still comes over to to the Dog Pound. And I coached his boy in youth football starting in second grade. So we're all good friends, and that's that's the
Yeah.
thing it is. But yeah, it's nice to have that view.
And one of the quotes that really surprised me, Sam, were Coach Skinner, just because of the different types of experiences that he had with him on the basketball floor. Just how well did you know Coach Skinner? And when you read the book, when you saw some of the quotes, um, were there some that were new to you when you read this book, especially from Coach Jeff, because of all the basketball things that I know that you loved basketball? That you don't really love basketball, you're a wrestling guy, so you maybe weren't as involved with the Joe Burrow basketball tales. Were some of those quotes cool to you?
Yeah, it was. And I've Jeff Skinner and his wife Heather have got three children, and they all three came through Athens youth football. Their daughter was a cheerleader for all 4 years. Both their boys played for all 4 years. Um, the youngest boy, he wanted me to give him his nickname. I said, no, that's not really how that works in third grade. And I said, I want to be called Hemi. And so we called him Hemi. So I still call him Hemi to this day. And Jeff was, he was the voice of the youth football Bulldogs. We played our games at Peden Stadium, and he'd go up there in the press box, and he'd get on the PA. They'd hook him up, and he would announce our games. So Jeff Skinner did our games for years, and even after his boys went out, he was still doing our football games. And so yeah, I've known the Skinner family for good many years also, and I followed him. He was a basketball coach up here, and I did follow some of that, and the noise.
They were good.
They were good. I mean, when you go to Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's, and
Oh yeah,
you're making them turn heads, and then you losing a close one up there, and then they turn around and come down here and play the following year. It's like, you're turning heads. People are, so. But as far as the quotes in the book from, I loved it. It's a side that you're right. I didn't get to hear a lot of that part, but I read about it, and I could just see Jeff saying it and see all that transpiring and all that happening, and so. It's pretty cool to actually, like you said, get inside those quotes that nobody else has ever heard, and a part of Joey's life and part of his bringing what built Joey and I call him Joey. I'm sorry, what built Joe to what he is today. And
I don't think Joe minds if you call him Joey. People call him Joe Shiesty, and he doesn't care. So
yeah, he's water on a duck's back. Joe is. He's he's just as calm and cool outside the pocket as he is in the pocket. So, but yeah, that was like I said, we've known the Skinners for years also, and that's the thing when you're the youth football coach, and you've been around it for 15 years and 18 years working with the program. You get to be friends, and they become your kids. They become your family, and and your extended family. So, I have a lot of kids that I see to this day that they're out in the working world and making a living and doing well, and they still call me Coach Sam, and sometimes I don't know their names, and I apologize for that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you've grown up, look how big you are, and they've got kids of their own, and so it's amazing. It's really I feel good when I see them, and I still call them my kids, and my wife's like, well, you got kids everywhere.
And that was my favorite quote from you out of the book. I think it really describes your characters when you said, I'm just as proud of the kid that has a labor job or a job, or, a job anywhere with the university as I am of Joe Burrow, because of they did everything in their life to make their life better. And that really describes this entire area, Southeast Ohio, because for a lot of people that haven't spent time down there and only have drove through it when they're passing on through up to Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania, or maybe they're driving southeast to Columbus for some football game, they stop into Athens and they don't really spend time there. They don't understand the type of work that so many people have to do to make a life for themselves in Southeast Ohio. And I think that the character that you taught those kids, and Joe Burrow specifically, just rings true. It rings through. It's amazing to see. And it was my favorite quote of yours from the book.
Well, thank you. And that's always been my philosophy. I mean, I was never a great athlete, but I was, but when I started coaching, I wanted to teach these kids, the fundamentals, the golden rules, the things that, we're family inside these white lines. And, you can be, a burger eater when you put that helmet on, go out there and hit somebody as hard as you can. But when we're done, we become gentlemen, and and young ladies, because I had a lot of girls play for me, that, when we're off the field, you're still wearing that Athens Bulldog shirt. And I want you to represent that shirt on Friday when you're wearing it to the game on Friday, or the basketball game up on the hill. So you're still a member of the family when you're wearing those colors. And I expect you to act as so. And they learned that. A lot of kids learn that. And their kids are sponges at that age. They want to learn stuff. They really want to soak it up and learn. And, if you can reach a few of them and then they do soak it up, you feel much better when they grow up and you see how much, they're doing in their life.
Well, and that's probably the most valuable. Let me restate that. It's the most underrated trait that Joe Burrow has is coachability. And I think you've always taught me that he was just the easiest to coach. You would say, he would do. He would believe, he would convince the other players to believe in what the coaches were saying. And Duke Tobin was talking about this the other day of, that coachability aspect of it. Do you think that that's from his surroundings? Do you think Joe was especially coachable with his time for you? Or do you think that that's just a characteristic of a lot of your players that you've had through your program?
Yeah, I mean, with Joey, I tell you what, coming from the family is, two older brothers and his dad playing, in the CFL and the NFL and in college and Nebraska, and his brothers playing Nebraska, and being part of that football, just life every day, so it's never leaving him. And then the competitive side of, growing up, being the youngest kid in the family, I'm the youngest of 6, and I know how competitive it can be in a family. You get to the dinner table, it's grab it and growl, you go. So, and, you learn to be competitive just by being around your family. And, so, and that's, things I'm hoping, he learned something from me, but I think his parents are great people. And, with his upbringing and that surrounding, I really think that really sets where he's, got his coachability, and everybody can coach him, everybody can talk to him, everybody can, convey to him, and he'll boom, do it.
Yeah, and that's so valuable because it convinces everybody else to do it too, especially when
Right.
he's so talented and hardworking and all those things. And there's just so much in this book that people need to know, people need to read about the Athens stories. There's so many games here
Oh,
that once this book releases, Sam, and people have it available, I'm going to do some stuff where I pull some quotes from games and pair it with highlights because it's just these are legendary stories. And the one that I wanted to talk about that I think is one of the more rare stories, and it describes the experience that Joe Burrow went through, and it kind of describes his, I don't want to say political, but kind of his world views as he's approached the NFL, and that is the incident with Trey Williams down in Proctorville against the Fairland Dragons, and that section of the book, and how much Joe had love for his teammates and threw for 490 yards plus and 6 touchdowns in such a hostile environment that you guys didn't play the Fairland Dragons because of how they were treating Athens players until I was broadcasting there. I remember me and Matt drove all the way down to Proctorville to play Fairland again in that tough game, and I remember Clay Davis playing in that one. Um, but just a moment like that to I don't know, what was your perspective of that game? Did it feel hyper emotional when you were watching it? Were there murmurs in the stands of, man, this is getting really rough and ugly. We don't know if we're going to make it out of here. Just, enlighten me more on that game down on the river.
that that game starts, and again, that game starts in youth football. When you have 12, 14 kids play together from 3rd, 4th grade all the way to that point in their career, and they know each other in and out, and then Trey came in his freshman year, and so it's like, he just fit right into our family. He fit right into that group, and he still to this day calls me Coach Sam. He said, so we're down there, and all that's going on. You're kind of hearing it. I'm on the sideline close, and I can hear some of the muffles and some of the things going on, and I'm like, come on, boy, you know what? And the only thing I kept saying, you know what that tells me? They're scared of us. They are scared of us, so they're trying every tactic they can to try to rattle us. I said, just stay put, boy. Oh, you guys got it. You got it. They're scared of us. You keep doing what you're doing. And I've said this for years, coaching youth football and other sports. When you're on the road, you got to score 3 touchdowns to get 2. And then you got to score 4 touchdowns. Type thing.
Yeah.
You're against it. You're against it. But when all that transpired down there, and toward the end of the game, it really got, you feel it. They just stuck together. That team they rallied around each other. They became a family, more of a tight knit family. They became, what they are, what they were at that time. And they're still close to this day because of football, and because, maybe I ain't gonna say that incident, because they were tight before that.
Yeah.
So, but when you can't rattle a family, if you try to pick on one, you're gonna get them all. And it doesn't matter anything about color of skin or anything. So your football is the nice thing about that. It brings everybody together, and you're under you're one blanket, you're one family. You're inside those lines. We are brothers. And so I think they were so close together, and they just played through it with, the family attitude.
And I think that Bengals fans now see, and LSU fans saw, that it's just something that Joe naturally is able to create. Even he can't explain why it happens. And there were quotes in the book of he doesn't even know why all these kids want to hang around him and talk to him about sports. And it's just not. But that is, I mean, Sam, when you write tales of great leaders, that's what they're supposed to be, right? The great, they don't want the burden of leadership. That's why they are the best leaders, right? Because they're interested in creating that family. Do you think that Joe is going to be able, once all of this money and noise that's about to come to the Cincinnati Bengals, and we've already seen it, how do you think this family type of atmosphere is going to persevere through the many failures, the many hurdles that the Bengals, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, everybody that's a family now are going to have to overcome for 20 years? I mean, how much do you believe in the resiliency of that? Because some people would say, "Oh, it's just because they're young. That's why they're so together." How do you think Joe's going to be able to maintain that through the spotlight that is the National Football League?
Oh, I'm not a philosopher. I'm a coach, and I'm an electrician by trade. So you're asking questions that we can only speculate on, and I'm not that type of guy. And but the one thing I do know is Joe, when he's there, when he got to Cincinnati, and I was texting him our first year, and this, that, and the other. And I said, I don't mean to bother you. And he said, yeah, I'm at work. And it hit at me. He's at work. This is his job. And that's what I get from his mom and dad. He invited me last year to come up and sit in his suite with his mom and dad and family up there. And my wife and I went and took her to her first NFL game ever. And that's where we sat. And I told her, I said, this isn't the way it always is. I said, this is nice, but Joe told me anytime I wanted to come, or, but that's a job, and it's his job, and it's their job. It's, it's what they do. It's what you're doing. When you go to work, you deal with the pressures and the things around that your fellow employees, all of you got to, work together to make one thing happen at your job. And they're doing the same thing. I mean, it's their livelihood. That's what they do every day. They wake up every day and they put their boots on or their shoes on and they go to work. And that's no different than anybody else. And I think, for Joey, seeing that around here, that's everybody did that. You got up every day and you put your tie on and went to work, or you put your boots on, and you went to work. That's how life is around here. And
and sometimes really hard jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a grind, but so is football. Everything's a grind. I mean, nothing comes easy, or everybody would be having it. So, the more you put into it, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But the people that actually live it and do it are the ones that are up here. And I don't care what job you're doing or what life's got, whatever. It's you're always up here. All those people that put all this into it are getting all this back out of it, and they're up here.
Yeah. And right now the Bengals, not just Joe, but I think T, and I just, it's across the board. We've seen so many players reach their ceiling on the Bengals, embracing that philosophy and getting everything out of it. And
I will say this. I will say this about a ceiling. they build them every day, and they get higher and higher, and records are
I
made to
like
be
that.
broken. So
Yes.
where's the ceiling?
Sam.
Where's the ceiling?
It's never ending. I mean, you can accomplish whatever. Just because something hasn't been done doesn't mean it will be done,
We never
or
landed
it
on the
can't be
moon
done.
until we did. So
Exactly. And just so people know, just to rattle off the records, um, I always like to add this in spots, Sam, just because people forget. Okay, before Joe Burrow arrived at Athens High School, they had won 0 playoff games in the modern OHSAA format. After Joe Burrow left, Athens had won 8 playoff games and was a few extra points away from winning a state championship. Something that the people of Athens now, when we talk Bulldog football, that feels like 100 miles away once again. And it was just a minute away. And I know, have you even watched that game, Sam? Have
no.
you watched? You still
I,
haven't watched the state championship?
I put it in one day to watch it, and I started watching it. The first, I took the tape out, and I've never watched it all. No, never watched it. Can't do it. I just can't do it. I know. I mean,
You think
too many things.
you think the whole team, whole town is? You think anybody in Athens has rewatched that game?
Oh, I'm sure people have, and why wouldn't you? I mean, it is what it is. I'd almost guarantee Joey and Jimmy have never watched it. So, but there again, so many things happened in that game, and all right, if we don't run a 5 or 4-5-2 or whatever they call that defense we ran in a running game, they're a running team. If we kick our extra points, we're still playing that game. If we don't give up, first downs on 3 fourth down drives or fourth downs on that last drive, we win that game. If Trey's fingers are this much longer, we win that game. If Joey wouldn't have thrown that one pick, we'd have went down and went 2 scores and then have been chasing us all night. There's just many different factors, that came together as a family, as a team, that why we didn't win that game. So it's not one thing, I mean, if they call holding and offside, but as a coach, I don't go that way. I don't go down that road, with officials, but hey, it's in the past. We did it. We're done. We're not watching it again. We got better things on the horizon.
Yeah.
And so, the LSU years, down there at Baton Rouge, I hated the color purple because of our rival Logan. And so I don't like purple. Well, when Joey went down there, guess what? There's purple one hanging in this garage right here in the dog pound. So, and, we're proud of him for that. Got to meet some people down there. I still on Twitter with a couple guys from down there, and we still talk. So, and then the Cincinnati Bengals, like I said, I'm a lifelong Browns fan, always had been. And then, Joe went there, and me and Jimmy stood right here and talked about the week before that draft. And I said, well, they got to take him. He said, oh, yeah, they'll probably take him. I said, good for us. That's 2.5 hours down the road. We can go see him anytime. And I said, yeah. And so we knew that was going to happen. And so now I'm a Bengals fan, I have Bengals gear everywhere and stuff. But
now, I need some credit here. I stood in that spot right there, Sam, when the Bengals were 0-8, and I was like, it's happening. It's happening. He's coming to Cincinnati. And I'd been the biggest Bengals fan. I'd been in that garage 100 times talking about my poor Bengals. And I was like, it's happening, Sam. It's all coming together. And I got to get some credit. I was, as a Bengals fan, I was getting hyped up.
No, you were, I mean, you were on the bandwagon, on that wagon, jump on. And, they had to take him. I mean, small town boy, 2.5 hours up the road. Bengals had to take him. I mean, it was, if it was a bust, you still would have had to take him, or they'd have been laughed out of the league, So it worked out, and everything worked out. And as Jimmy and I always talked about throughout these years, the stars aligned. The stars aligned for him to come here. The stars aligned for everything to happen. And throughout his career, throughout his, the 4 years he spent at, his time at Ohio State, Urban Meyer was smart. He left him in his hip pocket, and because he didn't want to play him, against him.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Maybe that's why. I don't know why, but but the stars aligned. He graduated from Ohio State, got his degree. People don't, just think he just transferred. No, he graduated. He has a degree from Ohio State. He is an alumni of OSU.
Graduated in 3 years.
Yeah, graduated 3 years and said, all right, I'm going to find my, and University of Cincinnati was right on the cusp, and he got the call from down there and went to Baton Rouge.
Sam Smith. I remember we were covering it on the Sports Fan, and Max McDoulan had sources in Cincinnati. Like he's got people that are boosters down there that he's known because he's got family that's connected all throughout Cincinnati. We had him on the show, and they're like, people are convinced Joe Burrow's coming to Cincinnati, and they were going to play OU that year.
Yeah.
And over the next 2 years, it was a home and there was, I believe, 2 games against Cincinnati that they were going to play. I think one of them could have been switched to Athens if it would have been Joe Burrow, which that would have been Sam. That would have been in an insane atmosphere to have Joe Burrow playing at Peden Stadium, playing for the University of Cincinnati. The Bengals should do a preseason game in Cincinnati, or like a spring in Athens, meaning. At Peden Stadium. That would be something they could do, or practice.
There's many kids. There's 53 guys on that roster, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to their high schools and do the same thing.
That's true. Oh man, Sam, dude, you are. I mean, the level of character that you've coached with and lived your life with, man. Thank you. It's honorable stuff, and I'm so happy that you're a Bengals fan now. I mean, to have you on our bandwagon is.
Well, thank you.
It's a dream come true. It's a dream come true.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I know them all. I mean, I know every time we do a trade, I watch Matt gets me over there at his place, and we watch all the stuff, the Bengals stuff, and Rappaport and all, all of them. And I follow Jeff Hobson, and I follow, Jay Morrison, and still talk to them guys, and they were here and interviewing. So I still follow those guys, and if I want to, I can shoot out a text to one of them and get it like, hey, what's going on? How we, what's happening? Yeah. And Jeff Hobson said the other day, it was just funny. He said, we get started on the interview, and he's going, it just seems like I just wrote about the last drive. It just seems like yesterday. I just wrote about the last drive. He said, with Joe here, these deep runs, he said, we have no time off anymore. We don't have no, and he said, not that I'm complaining. He said, I'm not complaining. He said, but he said, I like it. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep going that way. I like it too. I said, yeah.
Well, there's consternation among Bengals fans, and I'm not asking you to go in depth, but just should any Bengals fan be concerned about Joe Burrow's long-term future in Cincinnati? Yes or no?
No. They should not be worried.
There you go. There you go, guys. That's it. That's all we need to say. The numbers are going to be the numbers. Whatever's going to get worked out is going to get worked out. However's going to happen, it's going to happen. But there's no need to worry about Joe's wants or the Bengals want to match whatever needs to happen there. That's just nothing that needs to be a concern in Bengals fans' mind.
No, I mean, it's a job. It's a business. And right now he's employed right there. And I think as long as everybody's happy, he's going to show up and do his work, and he's going to do it with whoever he has on the field with him. And like I said, a good point in the book, Coach Adams, junior high coach or junior high teacher. He says this, and he has this in there about antidote. We're playing basketball in the gym, and Joe picks up, 3 or 4 of the lesser guys that, don't get picked. And one of the Lermans were on the other team, and he takes those guys and they beat that team. And he said, Joe makes whatever he's doing. And then Joe didn't score all the points. He says, or something. He says, Joe, he brought it out of them, to play and compete. And he'll do that in Cincinnati as long as he's there. And I think that's going to be for a long time.
Yeah. And it's going to be an exciting run. And there's already so many great players there. And I can't wait to see how many more players will become great in their tenure. I mean, we saw that with all the great quarterbacks, with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. I mean, look at how many great players would pop up all of a sudden because they're under their influence. Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski, all the back half of Brady's career, not even the front half guys who benefited from that.
CJ Hujma. I mean, he got paid and went to the Jets, people don't want to get rid of, we want to keep, the tight end we have now. So it's like, Joey makes people. I mean, he brings everybody into the game. He brings
Yeah.
them all. I mean, even in youth football. I mean, that's what you're talking about him playing at Peden Stadium. I mean, that was our home field. Peden Stadium was our home field because we had grass field here at Athens,
Mhm.
so we had severe rains every year. It seemed like every time, and fields were getting tore up with soccer and varsity football and junior varsity football and junior varsity soccer. And they asked us if we would go somewhere else and play. And we approached OU athletic department and said, "Hey, let's do this university thing, and we'll give you publicity and blah blah blah." And it worked out. So we played there for years, and
Yeah.
so we got the first win on the new turf when they put the turf down. The Athens youth football did. So years and years ago. So and there's still an article in the paper about that too. So
Oh
anyway,
yeah. Well,
but
and there's so many nuggets like that again in this book. From Bulldog to Bengal, we got to shout it out again.
thank you.
Look, Sam, you are a published author. I love to see it. Um,
Appreciate you. No,
it's
thank you.
it's available for pre-order. It's going to be coming out
April
I
25th.
April 25th. So make sure that you pre-order it. Website that they can get to easily,
Uh,
Sam,
Orange
from here.
Fraser, Orange Fraser Press. .com. You can order it through there. I guess you can order it through Amazon also, but Orange Fraser directly, the publisher of our book, you can order it through them. Um, but and then Scott said you can get it through Amazon as well, but
Yep.
pre-order.
Probably just Google From Bulldog to Bengal, the Joe Burrow story through the eyes of his hometown. You're probably going to be able to find it
Correct.
on the internet. Adam Schefter's tweeted about it. Jeff Hobson, you've been doing a media circuit, Sam. It's insane. You've been featured on Super Bowl coverage. The Dog Pound
This
has
is our
been
dog pound.
featured,
Yeah.
which the Dog Pound, take me through the story of the Dog Pound, because I think that place had a religious feeling to me the first day I walked into it. And you guys were immediately offering me food. Hey, oh my gosh, welcome to the Dog Pound. And you're showing me all the pictures on the wall, which are behind you, of Joe Burrow and that Athens teams and many other Athens teams, not even Burrow teams.
No, right.
And it's a celebration of Athens football. And now it's become, you might need to charge tickets to make it a museum after this book, Sam, because it might be the greatest collection of Joe Burrow memorabilia in Southeast Ohio. So tell me the story about the Dog Pound, how it got started and how it's evolved.
Like I said, where I live is directly across the street from the Athens High School football field. So we bought this place in '88. So I get 5 free home games a year, baby, and so we, blah, 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 and all everything. We built a garage in 2001. I was coaching youth football and this, that, and the other from 95 through 2010. And there's somewhere around in there, I don't know, but we needed a place to store equipment, and I had this big garage just built. So we stored all the football equipment. My wife, and we'd take it to the laundromat and wash it. We'd store it away in totes. We hung the helmets up, the shoulder pad racks. Everything was stored in here. And during equipment pass out, they'd line up. That's right. Meet at my garage. We walk in one door. I'd have the big garage door open. We'd have it all laid out. So whoever was here, Shut or Zides, whoever was fitting helmets that year would fit the helmets. They get their equipment, move out the door, and the same thing at the end of the year. We'd come in and they'd drop it off, and all that stuff. So it kind of came the Dog Pound then, and then. But every Friday night, as well as
Oh
when
yeah.
there's a home game here, we'll do wings or chili or soup beans on the open fire. I mean, you've had some of our cuisine, and it's
It
good salsa,
is
good salsa.
best
So,
salsa in the world.
yeah, no, thank you
Best
very much.
I remember the one. I don't know if you remember this one. It was the smoker. You were using the smoker. I think it was
Oh,
ribs. I think you were
yeah.
smoked something for almost a whole day. And I
Uh,
show up and you're like, get ready. You're eating great today.
yeah, we had. I think. Well, we've done. I don't know what we've done. Brisket, of course. I
I
smoke
think it was
every.
brisket.
We've
Probably
done
smoked
brisket.
brisket.
We do pork butt. We do ribs. We smoke chickens, whole chickens. Um, yeah, we do. We do it all. I mean, I've smoked everything. I've got 4 smokers now, and digital controls, and I mean the whole nine. And
Well, and then we did do you remember my favorite was when we uh what we did Cajun, we did Louisiana stuff for an LSU game, did we? Or we did it for
Well,
like
the
a Nelsonville,
Natty
York
game.
game?
Now, see, the national championship game we did that, and it's in the book. A friend of ours, Steve Shockley, went and brought 2 big sacks of crawfish, live crawfish, and from Louisiana straight here, and brought his pot, and he went and got all the oranges and I mean everything, the andouille sausage, the boudin, the big red shrimp, and he showed us how to do it all. We poured it out on the table for the Natty game. I mean, yeah, we did that, and then we still do. We used to do freshwater prawn that a local lake out here used to sell, and they're we'd go buy a big cooler full of those, and we'd boil them up and have a low country boil, with our own
Oh yeah.
corn and sausage in it and
You're making
potatoes.
me real hungry, Sam.
But yeah, but yeah, any Friday night there's a home game. We usually put a feed on, and whoever shows up shows up. I mean, it's like we don't know who's coming. Anybody that's I've had former players throughout the years just stop by. Hey, how you doing? They bring their kids, and I'd be introduced to their wife and their kids, and it's great. It's awesome. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here for.
Well, and it's a great view of the field. The only
Yeah.
negative is the scoreboard. You could
No,
negotiate it
you
around.
don't need to see the scoreboard if you're paying attention, right?
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Or if
Yeah.
you've got the radio on. If you,
Yeah,
if you-
we're listening to Matt. The voice of the Matt Frazee, the voice of the Bulldogs, baby. You got to listen to him while you're watching the game, and you were on that radio. I mean, we listened to you on
4
some
years.
trip. Yep, and I was normally at all the games, but we still don't travel as much anymore. But we're getting back into it. I mean, the COVID and the pandemic kind of put a damper on a lot of things, but
Yeah.
we're getting back out there and we're traveling to all the games. We will not go to Proctorville no more, but I can tell you that.
Yeah, that was it was another interesting trip when we went down there. I remember an unnecessary roughness on a hit to the midsection, which was something to behold. So
Remember Trisha went with us. She's the chief photographer for the book. And on the way down, we're kind of educating you on what to expect down here. And you're like, oh no, it's and on the way home, nobody said I told you so because it didn't have to need to be said, did it?
No, I was ranting myself. I was like, that was horrible. This happened. Oh my gosh.
Again. So
but it was good football teams that I got to cover. I really was appreciative of all there was definitely and they say this about successful people in successful programs. It's not just about what happens while you're there. It's what happens when you leave. What happens immediately after you leave? What imprint did those teams leave? And I think that the state championship team left such an imprint on not just the next season was Zakiah Saltzman going off for 2,000 yards and then being very good, but the quarterback play over the next couple cycles with Clay Davis and Joey Moore, where
two all-state quarterbacks,
right back in a row. It was like this. Joe did it, and they felt like, hey, I can do it too. And Nathan White was there, still pulling the strings, and it just caused this reverb effect, which is even more of a credit to Joe and his time there, and what he was able to build, and the belief that he built that allowed Nathan White and Ryan Adams to build some success over the next 3-4 years.
Exactly, and then. And like I said, when we started youth football back in the mid '90s and got full contact football back here, ironically, Scott Burson's dad started. He was the first community center. He started youth contact football here years ago. Yeah. He was the guy that did it, and then it kind of fizzled off. And and I'm like, where's the youth football at? And they said, well, I said Nelsonville, Trimble, Logan, they all have it. Alex, where's ours? And well, we don't. I said, so we had a town hall meeting, and we went and set it up, and they were him-hawing around about it. And then the very next year, they said, yeah, these guys went together and said they started it. And I went and said, can I help coach? And they said, sure. And I just wanted to, so we brought it back, and that was 94, 95, and I've been coaching I was coaching ever since. But the reason being, in the 90s around here was kind of lean, 2-8 and 1-9, and I mean, it wasn't good at all. And we were building the program. So in 2000, I don't know what it was, 3, 4, somewhere around in there, we started, our teams were getting better. Coach Tamplin came and started coaching. We had Grant Gregory, who went on to, play at, he, Kent State for, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And he was a great athlete here. But when they start winning on Friday nights here, our youth program is there on Friday nights playing. Well, your influx of kids the following year is like, hey, I want to play youth football. So when you build that from there, from seeing them on Friday night, now your program starts to grow from the bottom up. And that's when Joey and that group came through in 2005, I believe was his first year, 4 or 5. And
well, and I think Athens is there's going to be a delay effect because Joe Burrow had a period where he was behind JT Barrett at Ohio State and he maybe wasn't so present. And so there's going to be a delayed effect. Like I can imagine that 7 to 9-year-olds in Athens, and Jeff Skinner had a quote of that in the book to where he's a teacher and they're like, oh, wait, Joe Burrow? Because they don't know the story now. And so they're getting reintroduced to it because of his success. I mean, he's one of the top 10 most popular athletes on earth, Sam. I mean,
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable stuff. So I can imagine there's kids that are in a fervor to play football at Athens when they're that age. I can imagine that youth numbers are up. I don't know though. Do you know, is there an influx happening at the younger ages?
We are. Last year, they wanted me to coach again, and they didn't have enough for 3rd grade, and they finally got enough. So I said, I have, health issues with my knee. I had knee replacement. I had all that stuff done. And so, I'm back to helping. So I got with, I'm going to get with Reed Dupler, who's helping out with the program. I told him this year I'd help him out with whatever. And then I've got a grandson that's 6. So he'll be coming through, and I want to be a part of that with helping him and get through it. But so the numbers are a little low right now, but also Friday nights we're not winning either. So there you go, and winning breeds success. Everybody knows that. So, and we got a good group of kids this year, and real young still, and I think we're going to be we'll turn some heads. 7-3 ain't out of the question, so that's highly possible. And, this day and age with the playoff system is, 5-5, you're in the playoffs type thing, 7-3, you're definitely in the playoffs, what is it, but so, and if you get that and you get a playoff win, that, those younger kids will see that and they'll want to come out and play.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that there'll be effect the longer Joe plays as well, because I think that 6 to 8-year-olds are the ones that are getting impressed on the most. Like that's when I became a huge Bengals fan. I'm sure that's when most people become big fans. So this run of success, we'll see. And I'm sure the pandemic affected a lot of things down there in terms of involvement or ability to involvement.
Right. The youth program, like everything else, shut down for a season. They said we went our different ways, and it came back, and a couple teams didn't come back in the league. They went somewhere else or did something else. And in Athens alone, I mean, there's a lot of options for these kids. There's a flag football program now, which is great, for 2nd and 3rd graders and 1st graders, I think. And, but, with soccer, is huge down here. And that's awesome. These, soccer fields are full of kids and they're doing something, being competitive. And that's all you need. That's what you got to have. And I don't care what sport they're playing, baseball, softball. I mean, it goes year round. And, so a lot of these kids, have options to what they can get into if they want to get into it.
Yeah, and we've already seen Joe Burrow invest in professional volleyball, which is something that hadn't existed.
That's awesome.
And I always said when we were talking about this way back in the day, during the draft process, I said one of the main benefits. I mentioned this back then was whenever he signs that ridiculous quarterback mega deal, that that allows him the opportunity to grow his philanthropy, which allows the opportunity for people in Southeast Ohio to build programs or add a little youth program here or there. And it's something that can grow the entire area. And Joe sees it as family still, which is why I think it's such a special opportunity these next 15 to 20 years to not just change the perception of Cincinnati. We're already seeing that. Cincinnati's growing in value. I credit the success of the Bengals a lot for that. I think a lot of people do. Not only Cincinnati, but all of Southern Ohio, almost that whole strip is going to see a benefit, not just economically, but from a football perspective, recruiting wise, Sam, because there's going to be coaches that say, I don't want to miss the next Joe Burrow in Southeast Ohio. So they're going to take a second look.
Excuse me. Matt and I've had this conversation, and you can ask him. And he'll tell you straight up, with Joe come out of here and what he did, there's kids right up the road that are getting looks now that probably will never got a look.
Yeah.
High school kids that are, coaches are coming down going, wait a minute, wait. Is there another diamond in the rough? Or is there another, whatever. So they're actually, and I love it. I think it's great. We're getting the opportunity now to get that coach down here from some school and hey, let's take a look at him. Let's give him a shot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how about Ohio State with Cam Kittle?
Yeah.
You're telling me that's not a direct, I know that he didn't go play quarterback, but they said, okay, he's maybe smaller than we'd like, but we saw Joe come here with the Southeast Ohio attitude and work his butt off and and now we see Cam Kittle making plays in spring ball. So
yeah.
I think we've already seen the reverberations of that with Joe and recruits, Sam.
It is, and I, direct response to that. I mean, from what he done, and I love it. I think it's more opportunities you can give these kids down here. More chance we can bring them out of where they're living and what they're doing, and maybe change their lifestyle a little bit. But we're not talking lifelong changing money, but an option, an opportunity, to do that and see, hey, wait, there's something more out here than I could do, and if I put a little hard work into it, something will come back to me. So
yeah. And not even with the goal to leave, with the economic growth that could happen, with the goal of maybe coming home and building more stuff here. I think that the next 20 years in Southeast Ohio, not just because of Joe Burrow, but because of the waves that something like that can create.
Right.
If people if we all grab it and ride with it, I think it's a massive opportunity for everybody, especially from a sports perspective, which is so integral in that part of the state. I mean, sports are everything down there. That's why I loved my time down there so much.
Exactly. And, and then there again, part of the proceeds of this book is going to the Joe Burrow Foundation, and, which covers, the greater Cincinnati area, of course, Southeast Ohio, but also Baton Rouge area, to help, mental health issues and, food insecurities in children in those areas. And, this would never been possible, without him doing what he's done. And now it's just his way of, helping out, giving back. And, the things he's done here just with his speech at the Heisman Award and, is amazing. So he's wanting to branch out and help all those communities that he's a part of and, or been a part of and give. And so that was a big thing on my list, also was, can we give some, to the foundation of some kind, to Joe's foundation to help them. And so that's what we're going to do. So,
and this book from Bulldog to Bengal, in my opinion, it has the myth making of a Bo Jackson tale, but from the perspective of a human being. The stories you hear about Joe Burrow as a human, the way he presented himself in school, the way he handled all the pressure that came with his success, the way he treats the hometown now, the way that everybody talks about him, speaks about him, those type of stories, they sound as unrealistic as Bo Jackson doing a backflip knee deep in water. But they're
throwing a rock through a screen door.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's stories about the man. And I think that's what's so appealing about it, because of it feels like he carved it himself. It wasn't, Bo Jackson was handed the gift of athleticism, right? And Joe Burrow was making it. He made it. He was given a great arm and great accuracy, but he made it. He made it himself. He earned it. And Southeast Ohio is a huge part of him building that character to be able to earn it. Not just his family. And he credits it. His family credits it, credits you, credits Athens. And I think that's what this book really, really hones in on.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. What makes the character of Joe Burrow and why we all love him so much, and why when people call him like cocky or things like that, we go, no, you just don't understand who this is and where he comes from.
And that's what, thank you. That's exactly how I wanted it to come off is that. And like I said, a junior high boy could read it, or kid or girl, anybody. Yes. Pick a dot on any small town and they could pick that book up and read it and insert name to whatever. And you can feed off that. You can, hey, listen, doubt me. Go ahead. Doubt me. Just doubt me. I'll prove you wrong. I will do it. and it makes you work harder. It makes you think, you put it in. And so, yeah, I appreciate
Well, of
that. I
course.
knew if I got you that book and let you read it, you would enjoy
Oh, it's
that.
it's great. I mean, and so many of the stories I had heard, but to have them quoted and to have it in a nice, neat package is, I love seeing it, and I just think it's so important. I think you don't even realize how important it will be 15 years from now, because you've got all these people together that have these fresh memories that have put it down. This is now the original biography of Joe Burrow, and his story at Athens High School, which is a fantastic story. So thank you so much for joining me and talking about it, and thank you so much for your friendship and your salsa. And I need to be in the dog pound in Athens soon. I'm hoping to come this summer,
Yeah.
and see it all again, Sam.
More than welcome anytime. You know that, Lucas. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you,
Yep.
sir.
Thank you so much.